Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Gopi Jana Ranjana. Jamunatira Vanachari. Jamunatira Vanachari. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnana Anjana Shalakaya Chakshunmilitang Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Aikya Arna Koriho Mane Asha. Trinadapi Sunichena Tarar Api Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. Hare Nama Hare Nama Hare Nam Aiva Kivalam Kalo Nastyeva 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 Gatir Anyatha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adigor Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome everyone. I don't know if it was last week, but a week or two ago I was in Los Angeles ISKCON Temple, and I told them how much I like coming here, but to make them feel good, I told them that yes, New Dwarka is my home. But now, this temple is my home away from home. Give yourselves a hand. So before I begin my class, one of my current students, he gave the lecture in the Long Island Temple this evening. And he called me earlier and asked what advice I have, what should be the mood. And I told him, well, of course, the default mood, I already chanted, one should feel oneself lower than the blade of grass. One should be more tolerant than the tree. One should be devoid of all false prestige and ready to offer all respects to others. But then I told him to read that poem that Prabhupada composed on the Jaladuta while being docked in September 18th in Boston Harbor. And I told him that I have given a nickname for that poem. I call it the Preacher's Prayer. And so, to put me in the right mood, I'm just going to read some of the statements of that poem, and it will do me good. First, Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'm secretly dedicating today's class to my good friend, His Holiness Badri Narayan Swami. He gave me an instruction maybe 2 years ago to always tell him when I'm going to be speaking here in my home, away from home. And so he, was just a WhatsApp message. You all know what is WhatsApp. It's mentioned in the 19th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Of apps, I am WhatsApp. Oh, some of you got that, huh? That's good. So he did a vocal one, and he said that he won't be attending because he's under strict doctor's order to rest, because, I don't know if you know, he has some heart murmur. So his doctors don't want him to travel. He's supposed to go to India. So he was telling me that he has another doctor's appointment on Thursday, and if he passes, then he can go on his trip. So let's bless him that the heart murmur is an illusion and that he's able to go to India. Please repeat, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So here are some excerpts from that poem, Markine Bhagavat Dharma. The words of Srimad Bhagavatam are your incarnation. This is a poem that Prabhupada is crying out to Krishna. The words of Srimad Bhagavatam are your incarnation. And if a sober person repeatedly receives it with submissive oral reception, then one will be able to understand your message. So that's the, yes, go ahead.
Real quick, a note. This was written in Bengali, and you're listening to an English translation. That's why it doesn't rhyme and all that stuff.
Thank you. As I always say, it's good to have Dravida in the house. The supreme editor of ISKCON. So, that's your responsibility, to receive this message submissively. Then Prabhupada says to Krishna, how will I make them understand this message of Krishna consciousness? I am very unfortunate, unqualified, and the most fallen. So there Prabhupada is demonstrating humility, which is the first item of knowledge mentioned by Krishna in chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita, humility. Therefore, I am seeking your benediction so that I can convince them, for I am powerless to do so on my own. So, this is good for me to have, that it has nothing to do with my ability. It all has to do with getting benediction from Krishna. Somehow or other, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it is up to you to make me a success or failure as you like. So, that has to be my mood. Complete dependence and surrender on Krishna. O spiritual master of all the worlds, I can simply repeat your message. That is the real criteria. That will determine how successful I will be. I simply repeat Krishna's message. So if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. And that's the art of preaching. How to communicate with an audience in such a way as to actually touch the heart. And it's not one size fits all. I have preached so many countries around the world. So I was mentioning this in my lecture in New Dwarka 2 weeks ago. To me, each temple is like a different football stadium. And you have to know this mood, this audience. So you learn that by doing this preaching over and over and over. You go out, first time, you fall flat on your face. But you learn something. So you keep at it, you keep at it, you keep at it, and one day you get to be as good as Dravida. All in agreement, say Haribol. Haribol. Yes. Only by your causeless mercy will my words become pure. I am sure that when this transcendental message penetrates their hearts, they will certainly feel engladdened. So that's my goal, to engladden you, and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life. Now comes what we call Sharanagati, full surrender. Here it is. I love this part. O Lord, I am just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance. Make me dance. O Lord, make me dance as you like. I remember when I was a few years ago recording the Mahabharata, there was one description of Bhishma on the chariot during the fighting. And Bhishma was so expert, the description was he was dancing in his chariot while shooting the arrows. That is just wonderful. He's dancing. He's that expert. So I'm sitting here. I'm dancing. So now I need your blessings. Please empower me by chanting, everyone loudly, the Maha Mantra, in case you don't know, it's up there. Everybody? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, for today's class, I just finished recording the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam for my website. And in that 4th canto, there is the story of the Precatas. The Precatas were the sons of King Barhishat, and they were sent to do austerities. And by the grace of Krishna, they came upon the best devotee, Lord Shiva, Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. And he taught them how to worship. Everybody say, Vasudeva. Vasudeva. Vasudeva is the name of Krishna, generally understood as the son of Vasudeva. But there is another meaning, one who is all pervasive, everywhere, existing. So Lord Shiva taught the Precatas this meditation of Lord Vishnu, Lord Hari. And then they did austerities. So let's pick up there. Of course, the third and fourth cantos is a conversation within a conversation within a conversation. First, Sutta Goswami is speaking to the sages of Naimisharanya. Then we hear Shukadev and Parikshit. And then within that, this third and fourth canto, conversation of Vidura and the great sage Maitreya. Maitreya said, the sons of King Prachina Barhi, known as the Precatas, underwent severe austerities within the sea water to carry out the order of their father. By chanting and repeating the mantras given by Lord Shiva, they were able to satisfy Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in the same way, when we chant this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we are satisfying God. At the end of 10,000 years, now just think, 10,000 years of austerity. Whew. I don't know about you, I can hardly fast on Janmashtami. And they're doing austerities for 10,000 years. What's that, boss? I don't know. You know the answer. If you don't know, nobody knows. So at the end, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to reward their austerities, appeared before them in his very pleasing form. This appealed to the Precatas and satisfied their labor of their austerities. So, we should not feel bad, because the Lord has also appeared before us. He's right there on the altar. We should never think that that's just some statue. No, that is exactly as good as God Himself personally appearing. So, here is something the Lord said to the Precatas. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Varang Vrinidhavang Badrong Va Yuyang Me Nripa Nandana Saurhadanarpi Fagdharmas Tushtohang Sauradinava. My dear sons of the king, I am very much pleased by the friendly relationships among you. All of you are engaged in one occupation, devotional service. And I am so pleased with your mutual friendship that I wish you all good fortune. Now you may ask a benediction of me. Wow. Wouldn't you love tomorrow you get a knock on the door and a beautiful four-handed Narayan appears and says, I am pleased with you. What benediction would you like? You can ask yourself, what would I say at that moment? Don't tell anybody, but there's something to think about. So they've done austerities and penances. The Lord has personally appeared and is giving them a benediction. Maitreya then said, after the personality of Godhead spoke, the Precatas began to offer him prayers. The Lord is the bestower of success in life and is the supreme benefactor. Krishna is also the supreme friend who takes away all miserable conditions experienced by a devotee. So, Krishna has millions of names, and Lord Chaitanya says each name has a Shakti, a potency. So here, one who takes away all miserable conditions, everybody say, Hari! Hari! Very good. Just by sounding these names, so much benefit is there. Our whole philosophy is based on that. When I was in Our Lady of Loretto Catholic School, I was taught, hallowed be thy name. But when I came to Prabhupada, when I came to ISKCON, now I'm learning, oh yes, the Lord's name is hallowed, holy, but it's more. It's more than that. There's a very nice verse quoted by Lord Chaitanya. Nama Chintamani Krishnas. So much description is there of the holy name of God. So in a faltering voice, due to ecstasy, the Precatas began offering prayers, and they were purified by the presence of the Lord, who was before them face to face. Similar, when Lord Prishnigarbha appeared to Dhruva, Dhruva also didn't know what to do. The Lord touched him with the conch shell, and Dhruva spoke very nice prayers. Prahlad Maharaj also, Nisringadev was roaring after killing his father, the king of the demons. And Prahlad bowed down fully, dandavat, to Lord Nisringa. Lord Nisringa, Tavakara Kamala Varenakam Adbhuta Sringam, touched him. Prahlad stood up, 5-year-old boy, offered beautiful prayers. Anyone who's read that chapter in the 7th canto, Prahlad's statements are, like we used to say in the 60s, blows my mind. Yes, amazing statements by Prahlad. Mature, very mature realization. So, there are many prayers the Precatas offered. I've selected a few that I think at least they inspire me. Parijaten jasa labde sarango anyang nasevate tvad angri mulam asadya sakshat king vrani mahi. Dear Lord, when the bumblebee approaches the celestial tree called Parijata, it certainly does not leave the tree, because there is no need for such action. So similarly, when we have approached your lotus feet and taken shelter of them, what further benediction may we ask of you? So this is actually very advanced spiritual understanding. When we spend the month of Kartik and every day reciting the Damodar Ashtakam, we see the same mood of the author, Satyavrata Muni. Satyavrata several times says, Lord, I don't want any benediction. I don't even want liberation. I don't even want to go to Vaikuntha. I just want to be able to always see you in my heart. That's called love. Yavate mayaya sprishta brahmamam iha karmabihi tavat bhavat prasanganang sangasyano bhave bhave. Dear Lord, as long as we have to remain within this material world due to our material contamination and wander from one type of body to another and from one planet to another, we pray that we may associate with those who are engaged in discussing your pastimes. We pray for this benediction life after life in different bodily forms and on different planets. So, several things here. Why are we in this material world? We are contaminated by material desires, our independent nature. We want to enjoy separate from Krishna. That's why we're here. And next thing, yes, you don't get to be Nirantara forever. You don't get to be Tom Brady forever. You get one life, and then now take another one. I was once told, you can take it or leave it, but I was once told an astrologer was advising a ISKCON temple president and his wife. And the astrologer said, oh, you two have been married many times, and each time you change roles. Interesting, huh? Food for thought? Yes. And then says, from one planet to another. So Bhagavatam is clear. We know from Bhagavatam there's life on other planets. Now, the key thing, we may associate with those who are engaged in discussing your pastimes, meaning devotees. Because only devotees have that common interest of glorifying the Lord. So, that is something to be noted. The Precatas are saying, whatever we may be, it's okay. But we have to be with the devotees. They continue. Now, this verse appears exactly as it is twice. It's in the first canto, and it's here in fourth canto. Tulayama lavena pi naswaragang napunar bhavam bhagavat sangi sangasya martyanang kim utashishaha. Even a moment's association with a pure devotee cannot be compared to being transferred to the heavenly planets or even merging into the Brahman effulgence in complete liberation. For living entities who are destined to give up the body and die, association with pure devotees is the highest benediction. I feel so fortunate that I did get some moments of association with our ISKCON founder Acharya. And this verse here, I should take it very seriously and never minimize the association I had. But I can have Prabhupada's association always, thanks to technology. Yes, technology can be good, can be bad. Many years ago, one follower of Sai Baba, he was doing some business with the temple. My wife has to deal with him. You were doing the gift shop, right? So he came to our apartment. So he said he wanted to see if he could stump the preacher. Prabhuji, is money good or money bad? So it didn't take me long. Krishna helped me. Immediately, neither. It's what you do with the money. If it's used for good, then it's good. And if it's used for bad, you're bad. Actions speak louder than words. That's a song I wrote. So, in the same way, In the same way, we can have Prabhupada's association anytime. His recordings are there. His lectures are there. His books. If you want to understand Prabhupada, it's in his Bhaktivedanta purports. When you read Prabhupada's books, you're associating with Prabhupada. So anyone, yes, Prabhupada disappeared November 14th, 1977, but he did not abandon us. Every day I am listening to Prabhupada's chanting. I'm listening to Prabhupada's word. I'm reading Prabhupada's words. So I'm continuing to get his association, and that facility is there for you. It's up to you to take it or not. Here is the main verse that is my theme. Yatre yante kata mrishtas trisnaya prashamo yataha nirvairang yatra bhuteshu nodvego yatra kaschana. I'm going to beg your indulgence. Please repeat. Whenever pure topics of the transcendental world are discussed, the members of the audience forget all kinds of material hankerings, at least for the time being. Not only that, but they are no longer envious of one another, nor do they suffer from anxiety or fear. I love this. This is Krishna consciousness. And this was one of the reasons I made the experiment July 15th, 1973. I moved in the temple, and everybody, my parents especially, thought, he'll be back after 2 weeks. Because that was I'm still like that. My wife will tell you. I try something for 2 weeks and then, onto something new. She can tell you stories. Oh, by the way, this is my wife, Varuni Devi Dasi. But 2 weeks turned into 2 months. 2 months turned into 2 years. 2 years turned into 50 years of Krishna consciousness. Hallelujah. So this has been my experience. I remember just before I moved in, I was still playing guitar in Greenwich Village. And I remember one of the patrons of the place was called the Back Fence Bar. And one of the patrons, because I think I announced it, that yes, such and such would be my last day. I'm joining the Hare Krishna movement. I already had a shaved head. No shika. I didn't know. I just shaved everything off. So this gentleman said, yeah, I think it's a good idea you joining the Hare Krishnas. They're good people. And that was my experience. They were good people, like Dravida. And so many, you're a good people. Don't sell yourself short. All the devotees were cool. They were like, yeah, I dig these guys. They're cool. All right, here's Prabhupada's purport to this verse. So please try to hear, and as Prabhupada would sometimes say, sit properly. Vaikuntha means without anxiety. And the material world means full of anxiety. Anybody doubt that? For proof, just turn on the news. Pick your channel. Right? What's the news? It's all bad. It's all bad news. Whether it's this station or this station, it's all bad news. As stated by Prahlad Maharaj, Sada Sumudvigna Diyam Asad Grahat, the living entities who have accepted this material world as a residence are full of anxiety. However, a place immediately becomes Vaikuntha whenever the holy topics of the personality of Godhead are discussed by pure devotees. So, welcome to Vaikuntha. This is the process of Sravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, chanting and hearing about the Supreme Lord Vishnu. The Supreme Lord Himself confirms this. Nahang tishtami vaikunthe yoginang hridaye shubha tatra tishtami narada yatra gayanti madbhakta. My dear Narada, actually, I do not reside in my abode Vaikuntha, nor do I reside within the hearts of the yogis. But I do reside in that place where my pure devotees chant my holy name and discuss my form, pastimes, and qualities. That is ISKCON. ISKCON is that place where we chant and discuss Krishna. That reminds me, the famous Beatle, John Lennon, my first guru, who I had to reject when I met Prabhupada. So he asked Prabhupada, how do you know who is the real guru? Because 68, 69, there was a new guru coming from India every other week. Who's the latest guru, Swami, God that's coming this week? So there was so much confusion. Obviously, he had just went through a bad experience with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, so he was a little jaded about spiritual, transcendental life. But Prabhupada was so expert. Because at this time, John and Yoko were doing heroin. Right there. In front of Prabhupada and the devotees. So Prabhupada was very clever. He asked the question, how do I know who is the real guru? Prabhupada said, find that person most addicted to Krishna. That's my spiritual master. Vande Guru Sri Charanara Vindam. 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 Everybody. Vande Guru Sri Charanara Vindam. Guru Sri Charanara Vindam. At that same time, the devotees and Prabhupada were staying with Mr. Lennon on his Tittenhurst estate. And the trade-off was that the devotees had to build his recording studio. And in this way, the devotees, because the devotees didn't have a temple yet. They had met the Beatles, and they had a hit record with the Hare Krishna mantra. It was a #1 record in Europe, but they had no home. So John Lennon allowed the devotees to stay in his new place, but they had to build his studio. So on one occasion, Prabhupada was invited by Mr. Lennon on a rainy night to hear his latest recording called cold turkey. Yeah, that was right. Now, I'm telling you this story because I heard it directly from a devotee who witnessed this. So, Prabhupada and his servant was invited, and Mr. Lennon set up the tape recorder to play the new recording, but the machine wouldn't work. And he was cussing, and he was hitting the machine, wouldn't work. Prabhupada said, that's all right. I have brought my own recordings. So Mr. Lennon and Yoko had to listen to Prabhupada's recording of Krishna bhajans. As I said, I heard this directly from Dhananjaya Das. Prabhupada's life is simply amazing. Let's continue with Prabhupada's purport. Because of the presence of the Lord in the form of transcendental vibration, the Vaikuntha atmosphere is evoked. You all just saw that in the kirtan. You were dancing and chanting, and you were happy. Transcendental vibration. We're not artists. We're just devotees. But we have one thing, utsahan, enthusiasm. This atmosphere is without fear and anxiety, yes. Nobody is in anxiety when the special mantra is chanted. Sharira Vijajal. Nobody is in anxiety. Some people, there is a sleep mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate. But to wake up, Mahaprasade Govinde. Haribol. My wife can tell you stories that, no names, we don't want to embarrass, but there was one devotee in, was it Toronto or Montreal? Toronto. He fell asleep in his own Bhagavatam class. And so there was one devotee who was a real troublemaker. He said, come on, let's leave. Yeah, she was there. Wow. Okay. I mentioned in my recent class in LA, the secret to a good class, shloks and jokes. One living entity does not fear another. By hearing the holy names and glories of the Lord, a person executes pious activities. Srinvatang swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtanaha. Thus, one's material hankerings immediately stop. This sankirtan movement, started by the Society for Krishna-consciousness, is meant for creating Vaikuntha, the transcendental world that is without anxiety, even in this material world. So, do you feel free from anxiety right now? We're in Vaikuntha. Haribol! The method is the propagation of Sravanam Kirtanam throughout the world. In the material world, everyone is envious of his fellow man. Animalistic envy exists in human society as long as there's no performance of sankirtan, the chanting of the holy names. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Bolo, Hare Krishna. Louder! The Precatas therefore decided to remain always in the society of devotees, and they considered that to be the highest benediction possible in human life, just to be in the association of devotees. One more prayer. Yatra Narayana Sakshad Bhagavan Yasinangati Sangstuyate Satkatasu Mukta Sangha Puna Punaha. The Supreme Lord, everyone say, Narayana, is present among devotees who are engaged in hearing and chanting the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Narayan is the ultimate goal of sannyasis, those in the renounced order of life. And Narayana is worshipped through this sankirtan movement by those who are liberated from material contamination. Indeed, they recite the holy name again and again. I always remember my father. Rest in peace, my father. My wife and I, every year for Christmas, we would go visit my mother and father. And after a few minutes of, oh, how are you, and blah, 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 yada, yada, we'd immediately, there's no more to talk about. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. My father would say, why do you keep saying the same thing over and over again? And every year I would explain, or my wife would explain, but whoop, right over his head. But at least he heard the chanting. So the thing is, it's like, if you've never had a samosa, you can't describe it. You have to eat it. Then I remember the first samosa I had. Oh, wow. That samosa was like amazing, dripping in ghee. Ugh. Or so many other things. Oh, in my travels around the world, I've had this thing called patra. Now, if you describe patra, it's some leaves and spices. No. You have to have the experience. So the same way, you have to chant, and then you know what we be talking about. You have to chant. Let's chant, and then we'll ask Dravida for some final words of, how shall we say, enlightenment. Now, this is a mantra Prabhupada writes that, especially in Mayapur, but all ISKCON temples, this 2 lines should be added. Hari Haraye Namaha Bolo. Hari Haraye Namaha. Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Gopala Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudana. Gopala Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudana. All right, everyone, raise your hands and sing with me. Hari Haraye Namaha. Thank you very much. May Krishna bless you and protect you. Dravida Das, you have 9 minutes. Fill up the space.
Hare Bol. So, you began with a little mention of Bhadranarayan Swami. And this is his favorite one of my poems. I mean, whenever there's a chance and I'm it's an arrangement to do a poem, I've done a bunch of little poems. He asked to do this one. So it's about the holy name, and it's some of the themes that you touched on. Now, for those who know, Raghunath Das Goswami, he was one of the 6 Goswamis, very, very prominent disciple of Lord Chaitanya, follower of Lord Chaitanya. And as a young boy, he was in a meeting with his father and uncle. They were both great devotees also. And present there was Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur is known as the Namacharya. We chant 16 rounds a day. And when Prabhupada first began this movement, he said, okay, this is part of the, he was following the Gaudiya Math. He was part of the larger organization in India, it's spiritual. And the standard was 64 rounds a day. That was what everyone had to do. And Bhaktisiddhanta said, if you don't do that, then you're fallen. So he wanted to instill that in his new little team there in 26 Avenue in 1966. 64 rounds. So they came back, and after this, Prabhupada, if you want us to do anything else, we can't do 64 rounds, because they're chanting. They still hadn't finished from morning till evening. Said, okay, 32. All right, let's try 32. Prabhupada, 32. 16, absolute minimum. That's been the standard ever since for all these 65 years, 60 years or so. So I mentioned that because that 64 rounds is 1/3 of what Haridas Thakur was chanting every day. That's why he's Namacharya. I won't get into the whole story about him. But here's the meeting, and he said that if one chants Hare Krishna, then you automatically get liberation just by chanting that. And there was one materialistic Brahmin there who said that can't be true, because liberation is very hard. It takes lifetimes to get liberation. Just one name chanting can't be true. So Haridas, and if it's not true, I'm going to cut off your nose, he said to Haridas Thakur. This is a great offense. So Haridas didn't, he just smiled. And he said, if it's not true, I'll cut off my own nose. And so then they immediately kicked this guy out. You're fired. He had been hired by them, and so he was gone. But they asked Haridas Thakur to expand on this potency of the holy name to give liberation. So he chanted this verse, and this is one of my favorite verses. You'll see the incredible rhythm, and what's called chanda of Sanskrit. Ang hak sang hadatakilang sakadudiyade vasakalalokasya tadanitivatamila jaladin jayachitagan mangalang hare nama. Then he explained it. So I took that verse and its translation and explanation and put it into this song. So I won't sing it, I'll just
No, sing it. All in favor, raise your hand.
I don't know.
Come on, man.
After that kirtan, I don't know if I have a voice to sing it.
Don't cheat us.
Okay, I'll try to sing it somehow. If it doesn't come out right, it's your own fault. Okay. When the moon is invisible, withered to nil, and the sun is long gone from the sky. Now, wait, intermission. No electricity. We're talking 500 years ago. So when it's a new moon and the sun is set, it's very, very dark. People used to get a lot more sleep in those days, I heard, 12 hours. When the moon is invisible, withered to nil, and the sun is long gone from the sky, then an ocean of darkness envelops this world, and the timorous fear they might die. But that thick pall of gloom is at once swept away when the first signs of sunrise appear, and the dawning of day gives assurance to all that in truth there is nothing to fear. In a similar way, when illusion holds sway and the soul has forgotten his Lord, then the darkness of ignorance covers his heart, sin and suffering are his reward. But as soon as he says Krishna's name even once in a manner that doesn't offend, then his ignorance flees like the darkness at dawn, and his sin and his suffering end. So there's nothing to fear, for the sun of the name has appeared with his powers divine. In your heart may that sun, benedicted for all, become fixed and eternally shine. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
You asked for it. Don't blame me.
What?
You asked for it. Don't blame me. Okay, you gave me 10 more minutes. I got 4 minutes. So here's another one. This is a verse by Raghunath Das Goswami. Later on, after he's written this whole Stabhavali, into tremendous devotee, author. And it's about the holy names, about Hare Krishna mantra. Now, Hare, we're addressing Radharani, goddess person, origin of the goddess of fortune. Hara, the Bhakti is Hare. Krishna, of course, is Krishna. So this verse is a meditation on chanting Hare Krishna with love. So he says, I won't give you the Sanskrit, I'll just do the English. An excellent fresh nectar drink with endless, this is how he's experiencing the holy name. An excellent fresh nectar drink with endless subtle taste, such is the name of Radha, by whom all three worlds are graced. Condensed milk that is wonderfully delicious, thick and sweet, such is the name of Krishna, in whom all attractions meet. Now mix these drinks, O thirsty tongue, and then the cooling, fragrant spice of love, a prize the wise will try to buy at any price. And then at every moment drink this beverage most fine, and make my heart supremely blissful, peaceful, and divine. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much. I plan on being here at the end of next month. Thank you very much. May Krishna bless you and protect you all. Haribol.
Okay, we'd like to thank Nirantara Prabhu and his wife, Varuni, right? For visiting us. Hare Krishna. Haribol.